The month of Ramadan is part of the Islamic lunar calendar, and Muslims observe it every single year as a month of fasting from various things, all for the sake of Allah, God. Welcome back, guys, to FTD Facts. My name is Leroy Kenton, and in this episode, we're going to be looking at 10 big sins that Muslims should take special note to avoid, especially during the month of Ramadan. Okay, so let's get into this episode. At number 10, having wrong intentions. Yeah, this is a big sin. The reason is because the reward that a person gets from fasting during Ramadan is so big. So it's a big deal if somebody for the entire month just fasted for the sake of showing off rather than for the sake of Allah. Now, it's narrated in the hadith from Abu Huraira that the Prophet Muhammad said these words: "Every deed of the son of Adam will be multiplied for him, between 10 and 700 times for each merit. Allah said, except for fasting, for it is for me, and I shall reward for it." And now the sin Muslims need to avoid is the sin of having sinful speech. Also narrated by Abu Huraira, he mentioned that the Prophet Muhammad had these words to say: "Whoever does not abandon falsehood in speech and acting on it and behaving with ignorance, then Allah has no need for him to abandon his food and drink." So you see from this passage, if a person acts sinfully, their fast, well, it's a valid fast, but its rewards are reduced, or in some cases, they get no reward for the fasting at all. Number 8 takes us to the sin of fornication and adultery. Sex before marriage is a major sin in Islam, and this sort of disobedience to Allah is punishable in the afterlife. Now, the payment for sexual intercourse while fasting with a spouse is to fast for 2 months consecutively. If one cannot do so, though, then feeding 60 poor persons would be the payment. But outside of that, if someone engages in sexual intercourse outside of marriage, well, it's considered an even bigger sin. And so this person is required to repent first before fasting for 2 months or feeding the 60 people. There's also the sin of not fasting without an excuse. All, if not most of us, know that fasting in Ramadan is one of the pillars of Islam. Whoever does not fast is committing a major sin, and whoever does not fast in Ramadan without being sick or having any other excuse that allows them not to fast is considered more evil than somebody who commits adultery or someone who gets drunk. So it's definitely a big deal. If a Muslim is not fasting, there needs to be a valid reason for it, which is outlined in Islam. Not paying zakat is also a big sin, and this, by the way, is found in the hadith. It mentions that refusal to pay or making fun of somebody who pays zakat, which is a compulsory charitable giving, is a sign of hypocrisy, and God will not accept the prayers of the people who do so. On the Day of Judgment, those who did not give the zakat will be held accountable. As a matter of fact, the words of the Prophet Muhammad are recorded in the hadith, and they say this: "Whoever is made wealthy by Allah and does not pay the zakat of his wealth, then on the day of resurrection, his wealth will be made like a bald-headed poisonous male snake with 2 black spots over its eyes. The snake will encircle his neck and bite his cheeks and say, 'I am your wealth, I am your treasure.'" Then the Prophet Muhammad also recited the verses from Surah 3, verses 180 of the Quran that says this: "And let not those who greedily withhold what Allah has given them of his bounty ever think that it is better for them. Rather, it is worse for them. Their necks will be encircled by what they withheld on the day of resurrection. And to Allah belongs the heritage of the heavens and the earth. And Allah, with what you do, is fully acquainted." Moving on to number 5, here's a sin of disrespecting parents. Islam also stresses the importance of respecting your parents. The Quran says, specifically in Surah 17, verses 23 to 24, "And your Lord has decreed that you not worship except Him, and to parents good treatment. Whether one or both of them reach old age while with you, say not to them so much as oof, and do not repel them, but speak to them a noble word, and lower to them the wing of humility out of mercy, and say, 'My Lord, have mercy upon them, as they brought me up when I was small.'" Now at number 4, we're looking at not praying. Praying is also a pillar in Islam. It's one of the 5 major pillars. Ramadan fasting is not acceptable if a Muslim does not pray. And not praying or being lazy about prayer is a big sin. Missing the mandatory prayers leads to a decrease or just plain difficulty in gaining sustenance, and also the fact that you're going to be punished for it in the afterlife. The Quran in Surah 20 verses 124 says, "And whoever turns away from my remembrance, indeed he will have a depressed life, and we will gather him on the day of resurrection blind." Let's look at drinking alcohol at number 3. Whether it is Ramadan or any other month, Islam does not allow drinking of alcohol at all. And this reference takes us to the Quran, specifically in Surah 5 verses 90. This is what it has to say. "O you who have believed, indeed intoxicants, gambling, sacrificing on stone altars to other than Allah, and divining arrows are but defilement from the work of Satan. So avoid it that you may be successful." And there, intoxicants includes alcohol because, it causes drunkenness. Now, here's an interesting one at number 2, smoking. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims also abstain from smoking from dawn till dusk. Most Muslims, however, say that smoking shouldn't be done at any time anyways because it's an intoxicant, which would make it completely haram, meaning that it's forbidden in the religion of Islam. But smoking itself, surprisingly, isn't specifically prohibited in the Quran, but it does have a passage that tells fellow believers not to put their own life in danger. And this is the passage I'm going to quote now. It's taken from Surah 2 verses 195. "And spend in the way of Allah, and do not throw yourself with your own hands into destruction by refraining. And do good. Indeed, Allah loves the doers of good." And this one, I had to save it until last. Some people may find this inappropriate, so I didn't want it too early in the episode, but it's the sin of relieving yourself. That's the sin of masturbation. Doing this during the daytime of Ramadan actually breaks the fast, and it's based on the hadith. Since it's a type of sexual desire, a fasting Muslim needs to completely avoid this. Now, in the case though of a wet dream, if that happens during the time of fasting, well, it's not considered to be a sin in Islam. However, a Muslim is still required to bathe before doing various rituals. But no, it's not held against them as a sin, nor does it break their fast. And guys, just like that, we've come to the end of another episode. These were the 10 biggest sins to avoid during the month of Ramadan. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully you learned some new insights. If you're Muslim, maybe this served as a reminder to you. If you're not Muslim, well, hopefully this video gave you a lot of new insight and clarification on what Muslims believe during the month of Ramadan, as well as what they believe when it comes to sin in general. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted. Here at FTD Facts, we do our best to bring you facts and information about the various different countries, cultures, people, and religion of our world. So if those topics interest you, definitely stick around and join the FTD family, and I'll see you in the next one.